February 1959. A group of 9 experienced hikers vanish in the Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. Days later, their bodies are found, scattered, half-dressed, with fatal injuries, and no clear explanation. They were young, adventurous, and well-prepared. What happened to them is a mystery that still haunts investigators and conspiracy theorists alike.
Why were their tents ripped open from the inside? Why did they flee barefoot into sub-zero temperatures? And what caused the brutal trauma, far beyond what any human could inflict? This is the Dyatlov Pass Incident, a chilling puzzle from deep within the frozen Russian wilderness.
The expedition was led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old radio engineering student from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. He assembled a team of 8 others, 7 men and 2 women, all experienced in mountain hiking. Their goal? To reach Otorten, a peak whose name ominously translates to "Don't go there." They were young, intelligent, and optimistic, capturing their journey in photos and journals filled with laughter and unity. On January 27, 1959, the group set off from the last settlement by train and truck, eventually reaching the edge of the wilderness. Their plan was to ski across the pass and return by February 12th, but the harsh weather pushed them off course. On February 1st, they pitched their tent on the snowy slopes of Kholat Syakhl, Mountain of the Dead in the local Mansi language. It would be their final campsite. When the group didn't return by February 12th, nobody panicked at first. Delays were common on such treks, but as days passed with no word, concern grew. On February 20th, a rescue operation was launched. Volunteers, students, and soldiers began combing the mountains. What they found would disturb even the most hardened investigators. On February 26th, searchers found the Dyatlov group's tent, slashed open from the inside. Inside were personal belongings, boots, jackets, cameras, everything left behind. Footprints led away, barefoot and in socks, into the snowy woods. A mile downslope, 2 bodies were found under a tree. Then 3 more, scattered between the tree and the tent. The last 4 were discovered months later, buried beneath the snow, with injuries so violent they defied explanation.
The first 5 bodies showed signs of hypothermia, but there were strange details. One had a fractured skull, another had blood around the mouth. Most were barely dressed, wearing only underwear, or wrapped in parts of clothing from the others. Their expressions were frozen in terror. But it was the last 4 that turned this tragedy into something far darker. One hiker had her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips missing. 2 others had shattered ribs and internal bleeding, yet no external wounds, as if they'd been crushed by immense pressure. Another's skull was caved in with force akin to a car crash. Medical examiners were baffled. These injuries weren't from a fall or avalanche. They resembled something unnatural.
At first, Soviet investigators proposed an avalanche. It seemed simple. The group, startled by a slide, fled into the night and succumbed to the cold. But that theory had holes. There were no signs of a recent avalanche. The tent was still partially standing, and the footprints were orderly, not panicked. So what really drove them out of the tent?
Rumors began to spread. Some believed they'd been attacked by the military, possibly after witnessing secret weapons tests. Others whispered about radioactive contamination, which was later confirmed on some of their clothes. Even more extreme theories emerged. UFOs, Yeti attacks, paranormal forces. Was this a tragic accident, or something far more mysterious?
Despite the bizarre details, Soviet authorities quickly closed the investigation, listing the cause of death as a compelling natural force. No further explanation. Documents were classified, photos restricted, and families received vague, contradictory reports. The message was clear: don't ask questions.
Witnesses reported seeing orange orbs in the sky around the time of the hikers' deaths, a detail quietly removed from official files. Journalists were warned not to dig too deep. For decades, the truth was buried under layers of Cold War paranoia and state secrecy. Only in recent years have parts of the case been reopened, but answers remain just out of reach.
In the decades following the incident, persistent researchers and independent investigators never let the case die. With advances in forensic technology and the gradual declassification of Soviet-era documents, fresh leads began to emerge. New witnesses came forward, and satellite imagery hinted at unusual geological activity in the area. Renewed public interest forced authorities to re-examine the evidence that had long been silenced under bureaucratic secrecy. It became clear that the story was far more complex than a simple avalanche theory could explain. Pieces of the puzzle, once ignored, started to suggest that external forces, perhaps even state-related actions, might have played a role in what happened that fateful night.
But even with these new revelations, many questions remain. The reopened investigation only deepened the enigma. Why were there signs of unusual radiation on some of the hikers' clothing? What about the inexplicable injuries that defied natural explanation? And why did key witnesses vanish or change their testimony? Even today, with the benefit of modern technology and a more open society, the Dyatlov Pass incident stands as one of the most enduring mysteries in modern history. Every new piece of information seems to raise more questions than answers, and the search for the truth continues, leaving us to wonder if we will ever know what truly happened on that icy moonlit night.
In 2020, Russian officials once again concluded that an avalanche was the most likely cause. They suggested a slab of snow collapsed onto the tent, forcing the hikers to flee, injured, confused, and eventually succumbing to the elements. But critics argue this doesn't add up. The slope was too shallow and the damage too bizarre. If it was an avalanche, why weren't the bodies buried? Why the strange injuries? Even experts say this was no ordinary disaster.
Some believe the group accidentally stumbled into a secret military test site, possibly involving sonic weapons or radiation-based experiments. Others claim the orange orbs were missile tests or extraterrestrial crafts. The most extreme theories involve paranormal entities or even a Yeti attack, sparked by a cryptic note one of the hikers wrote. From now on, we know that the snowmen exist. Was it a joke or a warning?
Over 6 decades later, the Dyatlov Pass incident remains one of the most infamous cold cases in the world. Books, documentaries, podcasts, and even horror films have tried to explore what happened on that mountain, each adding their own theories, but none offering closure. The hikers became symbols of lost youth, unanswered questions, and the dangers that lurk in the wild, both natural and man-made.
Amid the theories and speculation, it's easy to forget the human side of the story. 9 bright, passionate young people lost their lives in the prime of youth. Their families were left in the dark for decades, denied the truth and denied justice. Today, a memorial stone stands near the pass, etched with their names and a haunting reminder, in memory of those who lost their lives in the Dyatlov group. Their story still echoes through the snow-covered peaks of Kolatsyakal.
The Dyatlov Pass incident may never be fully explained. After decades of speculation, theories, and partial revelations, the mystery remains. Was it an avalanche, a military cover-up, or something even darker? The more we uncover, the more elusive the truth becomes. What we do know is that the event has left a scar on history, a reminder of the dangers that come with venturing into the unknown and the secrets that nature and society can conceal.
In the end, the Dyatlov group's tragic deaths are more than just a story of lost hikers. They are a call for justice, for truth, and for the uncovering of hidden histories. Their memory endures not only in the pages of history, but in the hearts of those who still seek answers, whether through scientific investigation or the shadows of speculation. And as long as the mystery lingers, the legacy of the Dyatlov Pass will remain, an enigma that refuses to be solved.